Well, here we are once again at Bushy Park. It's a different kind of day to when we were last here. It's the Suzuki Challenge Series SR3 Cup. It's going to be fun today because there's rain, there's water, there are clouds about, so who knows what it's going to be like today. Maybe some thrills and hopefully not too many spills at the Bushy Park racetrack today.
At round one back in March, it was a steep learning curve for everyone, so the cars weren't always pointing in quite the right direction. There was good action though. Sean Maloney, the first winner in the Suzuki Challenge Series SR3 Cup. His brother Mark also a winner that day, as indeed was the third brother Stuart. But it was Sean who came out on top of the podium at the end of round one. In round two, it was all action once again, and it was the three Maloney brothers who looked set to do the winning, but after Stuart had won one and Sean had won one, so eventually, improving at each race meet, it was Mark Vieira of Guyana who joined in on the podium. In round three, still more action to come. In and out of the cars, Mark Maloney, again, a winner, inheriting one victory of his two after there was a penalty handed down. There's Mark Vieira of Guyana winning the second race, Mark Maloney winning the third, but it was Mark at the top of the podium. In terms of the points, Stuart, the championship leader after round three on 163 from Sean and brother Mark, 156 and 154 respectively. Mark Vieira of Guyana is fourth. Ryan Gonzalez of St Vincent and the Grenadines is in fifth place, and sixth, David Simpson.
Here we are, Bushy Park, about to take a break. The action is hot. It's like a barbecue sizzling, so we're going to cool things down a little bit and we'll be right back. Faster than the maxi taxi, they're blazing around the track at Bushy Park.
So after qualifying, Sean Maloney on pole, the first man to lap the Bushy Park circuit under 59 seconds. Mark Vieira joins him on the front row in his best qualifying position so far. And as they pull away, Kurt Thompson, the newcomer this weekend, fails to make it away from the grid at the same time as everyone else. Let's see whether he joins in as the race wears on. But it's Sean from Stuart from Mark Vieira at the moment. Yes, and we see in the background Kurt Thompson has indeed got himself going. Damp conditions for this opening race, another something new for the Radical competitors to try. They have not raced yet in damp conditions. It's always been significantly drier than it is at the moment. So new things to learn about the cars, how they handle and how you use them. So the yellow Radical SR3 of Sean Maloney is in the lead. Mark has moved up into second place, his brother. Third is brother Stuart, and fourth, tagging onto the Maloney trio from Guyana, is Mark Vieira. And diving up the inside at the hammer, there goes Mark Maloney into the lead, snatching it from brother Sean. Stuart and Mark Vieira still there in that very, very evenly matched quartet at the head of the field. Still you can see little patches of standing water, particularly there just at the approach to the W's, which Stuart takes advantage of, dives up the inside of brother Sean, moving himself on this second lap up into second place. Now, can he hunt down his brother Mark? But his brother Sean is challenging to retake that place as they come into the dipper. They're side by side through the dipper, side by side through the MQI Bullet. But it looks as though the red, yes it is, the red car of Stuart, just managing to prevent the yellow car of his brother Sean getting past him. So across the line at the end of the second lap, Mark from Stuart, from Sean, from Mark Vieira. And the positions remained that way until half distance. You get a bit of an idea looking at the on-car camera here of Sean Maloney, just how tricky these conditions are, how difficult the visibility is, and also those occasional patches of damp. So the position's the same as they were earlier in the race, albeit it's a little bit more bunched up and it's still a bit tricky, and a little bit more tricky for Sean Maloney than he anticipated there, I think, turning into the C-Sash hairpin. I'm not sure whether there was a little bit of contact there with Stuart Maloney ahead of him, but he didn't really lose any momentum. Certainly the engine didn't cut, and he managed to rejoin, albeit now in 4th place. That's been promoting Marc Vieira to third. And I'm talking about promoting him to second. He does manage to dive through. Now then, I think there was a little bit of contact there. He clipped the curb, which pushed him a little bit wide into Stuart Maloney, but it is Marc Vieira who is now up into second place, 3/4 distance in this 12-lap race on the 2.01 kilometre Bushy Park Barbados circuit. Still a little bit of water here and there, and another look at a manoeuvre there. Sean is very good, Stuart, should I say, is very good on the inside of the W's, but this time it doesn't work. Vieira fights back despite having had to drive quite a significant way further on the outside of that corner. But now into the dipper. Is he going to lose out? Yes, he does. He sort of out-fumbles himself a little bit, then gets caught up on the damp patch in the centre of the circuit. That throws him slightly wide. He drops back, and he's just going to have to sort of settle into catching up with them again. And to be fair, as they're in the Banks S's, Vieira is already making up that ground once again. Tries to get alongside the inside between C-Sash hairpin and the Cockspur Cyclone. That manoeuvre doesn't work, but he just has to tuck the nose of his red and black Radical under the rear wing of Stuart Maloney. But now he's dropped back quite some way. We're on the final lap. Looks as though things are going to remain as they are. Having said that, Sean Maloney, who had that spin a couple of laps ago, has been chasing the pack ahead of him down. Is he going to be able to get close enough to Vieira to challenge? Well, he has a look. He's on the inside as they come out of the W's. They're side by side going over Millbrow. That will give Vieira the tighter inside line at the dipper. He should be able to therefore hold on to his 3rd place, which he does, into the dipper, but he runs a little bit wide on the exit. Sean Maloney is now on the inside, coming up towards the Banks S. He's got to be careful of those little damp patches here and there, but no, it looks as though Marc Vieira has managed to keep Sean Maloney at bay. A bit twitchy again across another one of the damp patches there, but Maloney is nosing alongside on the exit of the C-Sash hairpin. Will Sean Maloney turn this into 3rd place? We wait to see, and yes, he has done. So Marc Maloney from Stuart, from Sean, from Marc Vieira of Guyana. So then Marc Maloney celebrates in front of the crowd, and the confirmation of the results. Marc Maloney, that's his 3rd win of the season, closing the gap on his 2 brothers. Times in the wet, incidentally, round about 6 seconds or so off the regular times. Kurt Thompson came through at the tail end of the field on his first ever outing in a full race Radical.
Everybody's getting faster and the racing is exciting and a lot of fun.
I came out today and the first race was wet, so we took it easy, make sure we brought the car back home. It's adrenaline, it's a love for the sport, it's just a feeling to get on the weekend, you know, the race weekend. Just keeps you driving, it's adrenaline as well too, you know? So that's what keeps us coming back.
And I'm standing next to some of these amazing machines that will be blazing around the track in a matter of minutes. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Nice car. When are you going to let me drive it? One condition. I love this song. Turn it up. Is that better? I think you're missing something. Is that better, sir? I think we might be late. Better step on it. You go park the car.
Wet track, rainy conditions, blazing cars. What else could this be but excitement at Bushy Park?
The reverse grid for race 2, Kurt Thompson and David Simpson on the front row, Ryan Gonzalez, Mark Vieira next up behind them. And if you thought the conditions were tricky in the opening race of the day, have a look at where we are now, because it is actually raining as the 7 cars pull away from the grid in race 2 of round 4. In the Team Digicel entry, Kurt Thompson manages to hold on to the advantage as they slide their way through the first corner. And as you're in car with David Simpson, you can just ahead see Mark Vieira snatching the lead. But just look at the conditions that these guys are faced with. But they're still pretty much side by side, 3 of them going down into the W's. You can see the raindrops on the camera in the W's position. And this is going to be a very interesting race indeed. Mark Vieira has already started to pull out an advantage. Now, if he can just concentrate on some good lines and just checking out where the most dangerous areas of water are, then he's possibly going to be able to translate this into another race win. But we've a long way to go yet. We're only on lap 2 out of 12. David Simpson is in second place, Sean Maloney third. Fourth still is Kurt Thompson, the reverse grid pole man. We go in car with Stuart Maloney, who dives alongside, moves himself up into fourth place. Ryan Gonzalez there, but that manoeuvre, who was that? That was Mark Maloney, I think, trying to squeeze past Ryan Gonzalez, and that all went horribly wrong because he had a spin there at the W's. He must have picked up a little bit of a channel of water on the inside of that hairpin. So Mark Vieira making good his escape at the moment. David Simpson second, and remains second as we move on into the race. A couple of laps later, very much out on his own at the moment, David Simpson. A battle going on behind him, which is working to Simpson's advantage between the yellow car of Sean Maloney and the red car of his brother Stuart. Fifth at present is Ryan Gonzalez. Down into the W's, Stuart Maloney, we ride with him. Is he going to make a passing manoeuvre on his brother Stick? Yes, he has done. He managed to control that very tidily indeed, so moves up into third place. Sean Maloney now demoted to fourth. Ryan Gonzalez holding on in fifth place at the moment. Still, the weather is not letting up. The rain beating down on these guys, and indeed on a sizable crowd here during the Williams Industries Digicel International race meet. Half distance in the second of the 2 Radical SR3 races of the day. David Simpson running a little wide there, going into the hammer. Cost himself a little bit of time. Stuart Maloney's made up some ground there, down to just 5 or 6 lengths between the 2 of them. They're approaching the Banks S's, tricky right and left flick. And Stuart, former CMRC champion, by far the more experienced driver of these two, continuing to make ground on David Simpson. 6 laps to go. These will be 6 of the longest laps of David Simpson's short career. And Ryan Gonzalez, his car picked up a bit of a tailspin there, off into the barriers. On then to the final lap. We're back in car with Stuart Maloney. Those 6 laps have passed very quickly in this coverage, but David Simpson has managed to defend that second place, despite the circuit looking like glass in some places with the water settled on it. You see the spray as they come down towards the dipper for the final time. Mark Vieira has backed off a little in these closing stages, controlling the gap between himself and second place David Simpson. And as we come through the final 3 or 4 turns of the last lap, it certainly looks as though Vieira is going to be able to hold on to claim his second reverse. Oh, and a real twitch there as we were riding in car with David Simpson. But there, the checkered flag wave for Mark Vieira. Second is David Simpson. Third is Stuart Maloney. And there with the Guyanese flag, a lap of honour for Mark Vieira. So 2 reverse grid victories in a row for the Guyanese driver. But sadly for David Simpson, the race stewards handed down a 5-second penalty for a jump start, so he slips to 4th behind Stewart and Mark Maloney. And of course, unfortunately, a retirement for Ryan Gonsalves.
Thank you very much, Barbados. Thank you very much. It was really wet at the beginning. It was very slippery and stuff like that. So I tried to get it as far as I can, because I know by the time Magnum catch themselves past everybody, they'll be attacking on me. So I pulled out a reasonable lead, and I was able to maintain it and monitor it all the time. One for again. I love it. Thank you.
About the 5th or the 6th lap, we're coming onto the straight, and the car picked up a slide, couldn't save it, and it went backwards into the tires, and we had to pull out.
Most exciting race I've ever been in. It was just, you know, there was a lot of variables that we went into the race not understanding. We've never driven the cars in wet, so it was a learning curve. These Suzuki radicals are just, they can't explain. I can't use the words on TV to explain.
Man and his machine, finely tuned, ready to race. We'll be right back.
I feel the sun on my face, and on this day, take me far away. Yeah, I got things. Yeah, I got things. And lift me up.
The fun never ends in the family room. The new Suzuki Ertiga. It's much more than a car.
Suzuki, way of life.
And as they say in boxing terms, let's get ready to rumble.
As ever, the grid for round 3 based on points scored so far. So it's the 2 marks, Maloney and Vieira on the front row, Stewart and Sean Maloney on row 2, David Simpson, and our newcomer Kurt Thompson on row 3. Sadly, Ryan Gonsalves not starting the final race of the day. Very good start there in the red Radical SR3 by Stuart Maloney, and he's eased between the 2 marks, Maloney and Vieira, to take the lead going into the hammer on this opening lap. However, there's a very determined Mark Vieira in there as well. First of all, he makes sure that he's ahead of Mark Maloney, who's now coming under a challenge from his other brother, Sean, on the outside going down into the W's. Sean switches across, picks up that damp patch. That costs him just a smidge of time. Although this is the first properly dry race of the day, there are still just 1 or 2 damp patches to be seen. And the determination of Mark Vieira shows again as he dives through at the dipper. Does he manage to retain the advantage? No, he doesn't. Stuart Maloney fought back very quickly there indeed. So Vieira, although he briefly held the lead, ran wide on the exit of the turn, but he's still tucked right in there at the end of the opening lap. Stuart Maloney, Mark Vieira, Sean Maloney, Mark Maloney is the order at the start of the field. Another little twitch there, another slight damp patch there at the kink, which is a twitch enough in itself without it being damp on the second lap. Oh, Mark Vieira has lost his second place now. A very quick manoeuvre up the inside there by Sean Maloney. He snatches the place away. Now we're back in car just to see that manoeuvre from Sean Maloney's perspective. Very neatly done, but he runs very wide, almost onto the grass on the exit. Does that give Mark Vieira the chance to get back ahead or not? No, it didn't. So we're just coming up to mid-distance now. Stuart Maloney from Sean Maloney from Mark Vieira, with Mark Maloney there in 4th place, seemingly unable to maintain the pace that he had on the opening lap. Down to the W's once again through that and that caught out Mark Maloney there, that little damp patch, and everything's all going wrong for Mark Maloney today. Has to fire the car up once again and gets going, but he's dropped back a long way now from the leading trio, who look increasingly as though they are going to be the podium finishes. However, in an SR3 Cup race, it's always far too early at half distance to predict what order the podium will line up. So Stuart Maloney from Sean, from Mark Vieira. And we move towards the end of the race. The order remaining the same, although the gaps have not extended at all. Mark Vieira has managed to stay right on the tail of the two Maloneys in his Team Vieira entry from Guyana. Very successful driver back home at South Dakota is Mark Vieira, and he's been translating that success into the SR3 Cup here at Bushy Park since the beginning of the season. We're on the penultimate lap. Stuart Maloney leads from Sean Maloney with Mark Vieira. I suppose just hanging back just in case the battle between the brothers gives him the opportunity to, as you might put it, pick up the pieces. In the background, Mark Maloney is still there in fourth place. He's made up some of the ground he lost with that spin at the W's earlier on. And here we go into the CSAS hairpin. There was some contact there. Sean Maloney just tapping the rear of his brother Stuart's car. I'm sure I saw Stuart's hand come up in perhaps a wag of admonition, but the positions remain the same as we go on to the final lap. Red from yellow from black. I mean, Stuart Maloney from Sean Maloney from Mark Vieira. Into the W's for the final time. Stuart just sliding a little on that water there. Mark Maloney pulling off into the pits. We discover a slight gearbox problem after, not a gearbox problem, a problem after having switched the steering wheels on two cars. And we see in this replay where Mark Vieira elbows his way at the CSAS hairpin past Sean Maloney to claim second place. Maloney will surely fight back coming through the final turn, but it is Stuart Maloney who takes the checkered flag as the winner of what is his fourth SR3 Cup victory. The checkered flag for the lap of honour, and it is Maloney with his fourth victory. Mark Vieira having his best race weekend so far, fourth, first and second, with Sean Maloney, Kurt Thompson, David Simpson and Mark Maloney completing the runners. Mark Maloney collects points because he had completed three-quarters distance, therefore he still gets the championship points, putting him 22 behind his brother Stuart.
It was an exciting race. Started third on the grid and got a real good start. Managed to take Mark and Mark Vieira off the start and held on to it. Sean challenged hard. At times we touched one another, but it was ended up as a victory, so can't ask for better.
It's been a fantastic experience. There's nothing more enjoyable than what I've just encountered. From only going from practice yesterday to race day today, it is phenomenal. The only word that can describe this is being radical. This thing is fantastic. This is a sport that nothing can be done. But I do have to say one thank you, and that would be to Digicel. Digicel brought me on board to drive their car. I hope I do them proud enough to keep them going.
The prize giving for the Williams Industries Digicel International Race Meet happening in the environs of the clubhouse, and a delighted trio of SR3 contenders. Mark Maloney third, Mark Vieira second, but it's Stuart Maloney on top of the podium.
The Suzuki Challenge Series SR3 Cup has come to an end. It's been another great day of motor racing. Lots of excitement, lots of rain, wet conditions, and great thrills, and a wonderful crowd supporting racing at Bushy Park today.